In this video, we'll take a look at the array collection. I would strongly encourage you to take a look at the previous video, 2030, about Introduction to Collections. Without further ado, let's dive right in. So I've created a Visual Basic Console application called ArrayVB. I'm going to paste some code in to create a single dimension array and show you some things that you can do just with singly dimensioned arrays. To create a single dimension array, I use the dim, then the name of the array, the size of the array, and then its type. So here, this says that I'm going to create 5 elements within my array, and then here I have assigned each of the elements to a particular value. Now I also make a note below that there's another way to do this, to dim AR5 as integer, and then use the equal sign, and then use the curly braces open and the curly braces closed, and put the actual values you want between those curly braces. However, as I make a note of here, you rarely will be able to use this syntax because you don't always know at design time what those values should be that will belong in the array. But I wanted you to be aware of that. And the next thing we'll do is paste some more code in here that will highlight some of the things that you can do with singly dimensioned arrays. For example, you can use the index of, which means you want to find the occurrence of a given item within your array, or find the last index of, find the last occurrence of the item within the array. Also, we'll highlight how to use the get lower bound and also the length. So what we'll do is find the index of the item that has 12 in it. So I will use an index of method of our array, so arr single dot index of, I'm going to pass in the array itself, I'm going to pass in the number 12, which is what I'm trying to find, and then the next property is, here, let's find our, yes, the start index. So we want to start at 0, but we're not sure always what the first value of our array will be. So I use this get lower bound function, and what I do is I pass in which dimension. In this case, since it's a single dimension array, I've only got one dimension, so I passed in 0. And then on the next line, we also have how long should we search for it. So the next item of the index of is the count, and I want to look for every item in the array for the number 12. So I use ARSingle.length. Length gives me the number of items that are within my collection. So then I'll print out the result of this. You see toString of everything that we find here. So the find of index 12 comes out to this value. And then we also do something similar, find the last occurrence of the value 6. So if you recall from when we defined our array, we have 2 6s in here at position 1 and position 4. And so we're going to, it's going to return back which of the indexes are the last one for the value 6. Let's go ahead and save this and build it. And I'll open up my trusty command window and type in array VB, which is the name of my application. And you'll know the find the index of 12 is at the 3rd position. So let's go ahead and take a look and see if that's true. So we were looking for number 12, and indeed it's at the 3rd position. And then we were looking for the last occurrence of the number 6, and it says is at the 4th position. And indeed, that is true as well. So this might look a little confusing. I apologize. In order to fit everything within the viewable area, I decided to use the Visual Basic line continuation character, which allows me to put things on multiple lines, but it's still treated as one line of code. So I apologize if that throws you off a little bit. What you can simply do is, when you get this code yourself, just delete those and put them all on one line if that makes things easier for you to read. So now I want to demonstrate how to use a multidimensional array. Multidimensional arrays allow you to create elements that have multiple indexers. So in this example, I've created a AR multi that has 1 and 2, and that 1 represents 0 and 1 as one dimension, and then 2 are the elements in the second dimension, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. So when you combine them all together, you have 6 total elements at position 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 1, 0, 1, 1, and 1, 2. And the number of dimensions that you have within an array can be determined by using the rank. So you don't have to have just 2. We could have added an additional dimension, and we can use the rank property of the array to determine how many dimensions are in that array. Also, we can find the given size of a specific dimension not by using the length property as we did earlier, but by using the getLength, which is another version of it that allows us to pass in which dimension we want to determine the length of, or the number of elements of. We took a look at lower bound last time. This time we're using upper bound. So show me the highest number. What is the last value within the length? And also, like we used before, the lower bound. And then we'll also use the getType that will tell us what data type is our dimension composed, or is our array rather composed of. So let's go ahead and save this and then build it, and then use our command window and run it again. So this time there are some new things. I see here that I've forgotten a little spacing character, but it put here that the rank is 2, so there's 2 dimensions in our array. That the length of the second element is 3, so there are 3 elements, 0, 1, and 2. And the upper bound for the second element is 2, and the lower bound of the second element is 0, so 0, 1, 2. And then the type of the array is system.int32, and this indicates that it is an array. So now let's continue on. We've dealt with just a single dimension array here at the top with integers and a multi-dimensional array with integers. But let's move on. I want to use actual objects, actual classes, and so I pasted in the definition of the car class, which we'll use for a lot of the examples from here on out. And it has 3 public fields, make, model, and year. And then also I've created a constructor so that when I create a new instance of car, I can just pass in the make, model, and year and have those properties mapped to the appropriate field. So let me paste some more code in here at the end of our submain. And we'll go through that. So I've created a new array, an array of cars that has 3 elements, 0, 1, and 2. And this is an array of cars, of car objects. So I'm going to create a series of car objects, and on their constructor is going to pass in the make and the model and the year. So I've done this for the Toyota and for the Ford. And you'll notice here I have accessed a specific value within the array and set it equal to an instance of our car objects. And in this case I did something a little bit different, where I accessed the last element of the array and passed in a new instance of the car object, passing in Chevy Trailblazer 2001. So this short example will show how to access a specific car within my array by using the getValue, and I pass in the number 2. So I want the second index of my AR cars. I'm going to grab that and put that into an instance called OCar. Then I'm going to need to change some of my code here. So I'm going to put OCar1 dot model and OCar1 dot year. So we'll print that out. So this is one way that I can use an indexer to grab a specific item within my array. Let's go ahead and save this and build it. And I want you to know that there's a lot of different ways to do what I'm doing right here. I chose to use the getValue method, but there's also other ways to do this as well. So we were just attempting to create a new array of cars and then to print out one of those cars, and what we've got here at the very bottom of our printout is the car at index 2 is Chevy Trailblazer 2001. So let's go ahead and extend this. So now I'm going to paste in some more code, and I'm going to show how to loop through, two methods of looping through your arrays. In this first case, what I'm going to do is very similar to what I did here. I'm going to use in the previous one. I'll use a for each statement, and I've created an object called OCar, so I've already done that, and that will be what each item within our AR cars array collection will be placed into, so that I can access the make, the model, and the year and print those out. I've shown a second example of how to do this as well, using an indexer-based loop. So I've created an integer I, and I said for I equals 0 to the number of cars in my array minus 1, so that I can make it 0-based. And I loop through each one, so AR cars 1, AR cars 2, AR cars 0, not in that order, and then I can access each of the properties of the current AR cars that's being referred to by this indexer property. So let's go ahead and save that and build it, and then try this again. And as we would expect, that our two loops are identical, just the formatting might be a little bit different, but the order is exactly the same because we've essentially gone through each of the items one by one. This tells us that the order that that they're saved internally is the same order as what we have added them into the array in the first place. And while this is true of collections that implement the iList interface, this is not true of necessarily true of the collections that are based on iDictionary. And so quickly, I'm going to show three more things that you can do with our array. We'll demonstrate how to reverse the cars, reverse their order, and then print them out. And then I'm going to show how to clone and make a copy of the cars so that we are dealing with something called AR copy instead of AR cars, just to demonstrate that we can deal with a cloned copy of the original array. Also, what I'll do is use the setValue function to overwrite one of the items within my copy collection, and we'll see what that prints out. And then finally, I'll uncomment this code, and we will we'll run that. So let's run this twice. We'll run it with the reverse and with the cloning and the set value, and then I'll uncomment it out and run the clear and show you what happens when there's no elements in the array and we try to loop through them. So let's go ahead and build solution, and then let's run it again. Alright, this time notice that when we go and reverse, that the Trailblazer, which was last in the previous examples, is now first. The Excursion's in the same spot because we only have 3 items, and the Sequoia, which is last here, was actually first. So it indeed has done a reverse of what's in the collection. Now it's stored that way currently. We would have to reverse it back in order to get it into the original format. The next thing we notice is that we've overwritten the first element, and then we loop through and displayed them again, so that the item that was, oh, I'm sorry, let's take a look at our code real quick. I think I changed something. I didn't change the text. Yeah, we are setting the value of 2, which is the last item within our array. So even though this says first element, that's just because that's an artifact of a previous example. What happened here was this used to be Toyota Sequoia, but we overrode it using the set value, passing in the OCar object and overwriting the second element. So finally, let's just uncomment this out, save it, and build it. And let's notice what happens this time. So with our clear method, we're passing in our array. We're also passing in where to start and how many to the length or the number of items to actually clear out. And we're just going to clear out everything and build it and run it again. And notice that we get our just-in-time debugger. Let's go ahead and select no for this, and we get a null reference exception. And the reason for this is because we've cleared out the objects that are at position 0, 1, and 2, and as a result of doing that, we've essentially tried to access a nulled reference within our collection, and you can't do that. We could have even changed this to 1 and 1. Let's go ahead and save this and build it again. And then let's just try to run it so it'll break. And what happens is, because the second item now, item 1, is no longer exists, it dies on that line. See, we made it to one of the items, but we didn't make it past there. So we've covered a lot of ground in this look at arrays, and a lot of this information is foundational. We're going to see the clear method used on a lot of the different collections in the future. We're going to see reverse used. We're going to see length and things like the for each looping through collections, and the getting value and setting value. And so we're not going to go through all these properties for every single one of the different collection types. So this one's probably going to be a longer video than the remaining videos, since we had some foundational work to do. But I hope that this was very informative, that you learned a lot about arrays and about the properties that collections have in common. Thank you.